There's someone out there right now that is okay with not knowing how accurate a past memory may be. But there's someone with false memory OCD that obsess over every detail of this past memory because they fear that something bad may happen that they don't remember happening. What's going on, my peoples, man? Appreciate y'all tuning back into the channel. If y'all haven't already, man, make sure y'all subscribe and turn on post notifications so y'all don't miss a beat when I upload. And as y'all can see by the title, we're talking about false memory OCD. Now, disclaimer, I always do in these videos, you know what I'm saying? I just want to let y'all know that I will be talking about common, triggers, obsessions, and compulsions when it comes to these videos. So if I don't mention a common compulsion, trigger, or obsession that you deal with when it comes to these certain subtypes of OCD, it does not mean that you don't have OCD. It does not mean that you don't have this subtype of OCD, because OCD is not one size fit all. What may trigger me may not trigger you, and what trigger you may not trigger me. And what compulsions I may fall into, you may not fall into, and what compulsions you fall into, I may not fall into. So yeah, if y'all haven't already, make sure y'all follow me on all my social medias. I'm gonna put them right here. And yeah, let's get straight into this video, man. So what is false memory OCD? False memory OCD is a subtype of OCD that centers around past memories that we are not certain about. And with us coming across triggers like intrusive thoughts telling us that something way worse happened than we remember, that causes us to feel, negative emotions like guilt, shame, and anxiety, which make us feel like, these things actually happened, but we can't recall if these things actually happened, but they feel like they happened. So that causes us to obsess over the details of this story. And yeah. And then we fall into compulsive actions to make sure that these things never happened, and basically to give us certainty about the memories that we are so obsessed over. And in this video, I'm going to speak on, triggers and obsessions that we come across when it comes to this subtype and the compulsions as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So like I stated in many videos, triggers can be anything that you can think of, but we mostly know them as, intrusive thoughts, intrusive, images, intrusive sensations, intrusive, visions, and stuff in that nature. But like I said, it could be anything that you could think of. It could be a word, it could be, a color, it could be a saying, it could be a song, it could be a movie, it could be possibly anything that you could think of. Anything in this world right now, alive or, not here, or not even real, can be a trigger. So the way false memory OCD works, it grabs, real life experiences or real life memories from our past and make a whole different version of that and show it to us and make us feel like it actually happened. So like for an intrusive thought, it could basically, like I said, grab a version of a story that actually happened in your life and twist it into something that didn't happen. And you will try to, search for any answer to make sure that this thing didn't happen. So I failed to mention that it could actually happen with events that never happened before, but it could just feel so real to the point that you become obsessed over it and try to figure out if this was something that actually happened or not. And these right here are just a few common obsessions that you can fall into when it comes to false memory OCD. You can worry that you said something inappropriate to someone. You can feel distress, after recalling a time that you may or may not hurt someone. And you also can worry that, someone didn't give you consent to do something after you did it. And like I stated before, we could fall into these things called compulsions, which gives us, the reassurance about, the episodes that we are in and relieve the anxiety and, guilt, shame, wherever that we're feeling at that time. It can relieve us from that. And when it comes to these compulsions, you can either fall into a physical compulsion or you can fall into a mental compulsion. The physical compulsion for, false memory OCD can look like reassurance seeking. So this is you walking around asking people their version of a story that you are obsessed over and trying to see if it matches with what you remember, or to just, get clarity of what actually happened. You can also confess, you can confess to something that you didn't even do. You can confess to this, memory or whatever, because you just want to relieve the anxiety and fear and guilt that you have over it. You can also just avoid people, places, or things. So this can basically be you avoiding people, places, or things to, you know, avoid being triggered about, you know, the certain memory that you are obsessed over. And then we have mental compulsions. This is basically any compulsion that you do mentally. And when it comes to false memory OCD, a mental compulsion can look like thought suppression. So this is basically you changing, you know, intrusive thoughts with good thoughts. You can also ruminate. So this is you revisiting the, you know, past memory that you are obsessed over and trying to remember what actually happened. And this, honestly, this can cause more, you know, triggers to happen, you know, because our mind loves to play tricks on us. You know, our imagination is, you know, infinite. So the more you try to remember what happened, you know, you just like kind of create more like stories, you know, more versions of that story. And, you know, you could possibly get more, you know, versions that you don't like, more triggering versions basically. And that right there is what false memory OCD contains. You know, that is what it is. And this is the end of the video. So I hope that this video was informative. You know, I hope this video was helpful to anybody out there that's dealing with, you know, false memory OCD. If you're dealing with this subtype, I just want to let you know that you're not alone. You know, you're very heard, you're very understood, and you're very seen, you know. So yeah, and if you're someone that's just watching to inform yourself on what OCD is, you know, I hope this video was informative to you. I hope this helps you help someone else around you that has OCD, if someone around you have OCD, or just help you just understand what OCD is. And yeah, another thing, disclaimer, once again, these are just a few common, you know, triggers, obsessions, and compulsions that someone with false memory OCD may fall into. And if I didn't mention any of those things that you may fall into, it does not mean that you don't have OCD. It does not mean that you don't have, you know, false memory OCD, because OCD is not one size fits all. Once again, what may trigger me may not trigger you, and what trigger you may not trigger me. And what compulsions I may fall into, you may not fall into, and what compulsions you may fall into, I may not fall into. And that is that. So yeah, hope y'all liked the video. If y'all haven't already, man, make sure y'all subscribe and turn on post notifications so y'all don't miss a video when I upload. And yeah, if you haven't already, make sure y'all follow me on all my social medias. I'm gonna put them right here. And yeah, if you haven't already, check out my last video right here where I was playing Fight Night Round 3. You know, that's, yeah. But I appreciate y'all for the content. I appreciate y'all for the support, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. More videos on the way, more vlogs on the way, more gaming videos on the way, more OCD videos on the way. I do need to get back on my vlog. I really haven't been doing anything. That's why I haven't really been vlogging for real, but I really need to get back into it. But yeah, make sure y'all follow me on Twitch. Every Monday, I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and every other weekend. For Monday, you know, I dedicate that day to, you know, mental health. You know, I don't know how long I'll be streaming, but it's gonna be a stream for mental health. On Tuesdays, you know, I stream scary. I stream scary games on Tuesday, you know, and on Thursdays it's just a throwback Thursday, so I stream my retro games, and then on the weekend I just stream whatever I want to stream, and then yeah, that is it. But yeah, I hope y'all have a great day, great night, whenever y'all watching this. And as always, I'm gone.